So if you've been following the super safety case, you've been like, what is going on here? Things just keep getting weirder, and today is no different. Yesterday we discussed it and talked about the 538 patent. Well, that came up today, so they changed their lawsuit or complaint. I'm not really sure what it's called in a patent thing. I think it's lawsuit, because, I mean, they're suing Tim Hoffman, right? So anyway, what's going on here? So, all right, the original lawsuit, it was based off of an expired patent called the 723, which has no legal power whatsoever. Why they would include it in there, it'll make more sense as we go. Then you got the 247 patent, which is built off of other expired patents. So again, it has like little to no legal leverage. We'll talk about why that's in there. And then you got the 784. In my opinion, now I'm not a legal expert, but in my opinion, this is the only legitimate patent in the case. Until today. Yesterday, at some point, they added in the 538 patent. Why? Why, after a preliminary injunction, would you add on to what's going on? And that's what today's video is going to be about. And before we get into that, I want to remind you that shopping at Only Tactical Fans at shopify.com is the best way to support the channel because I'm permanently monetized on YouTube. And I do have the APAC. These are a civilian version of MREs. They basically make them healthier and taste better. So I don't actually consider these as survival food. What I consider this is something you would have in your truck in case you run 2 16-hour shifts or something like that. And you want a hot meal, there's no kitchen nearby, no restaurant anywhere nearby, well, you have another option. And these are about the cost of a McDonald's meal, so it's pretty good. And like I said, they're healthier, so they're designed more for eating regularly. And that's pretty cool. Back to the video. So what are we looking at here? So they added another infringement theory after the preliminary injunction. So why would they do that? Because it doesn't even make sense. They already got the preliminary injunction, and at this point in proceedings, that's the big win. That's the number one goal. Now, it's not a total win, but that's what they're striving for. So that is reinforced leverage. They already had the preliminary injunction. Well, now if they add another patent in there, it's going to add complexity to the case and add cost. It's also going to create redundancy. So they might think the other patents are weak, and they totally are. These are trash patents, and in my opinion, again, I'm not a patent lawyer, but the 748 isn't related to the super safety at all. So they're going to need a little bit of redundancy because they think the patents are weak. And you got to remember, sometimes cases aren't won on merit, they're won on legal costs. So that's another reason why they're going to try to reinforce it and make it harder, because he has to defend against the 538. Regardless what you think about the 538 patent, now he needs to defend against it. More expert witnesses, more discovery, more time, more statements put in there. That is to a settlement strategy. You got cost versus benefit. If I keep fighting, what are the benefits? Whether if I settle, I don't know if they've offered a settlement or not. I don't know, Tim. So maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But at some point, they're going to be like, hey, we'll offer you X amount of dollars. You're going to sign off here. You're going to say that these patents are legitimate. You're sorry for doing it. You're not going to do it anymore. You're going to cease all activities, and we're going to own these patents. So a settlement strategy. Timing matters. So what's going on here? Because you remember, this patent, the 538 patent, was official January 2026. January 2026, January 26th of 2026. That's what I'm trying to spit out here. But they didn't get their preliminary injunction until February 11th. So they could have definitely included this patent into their preliminary injunction beforehand. Why now? Why do it now? Well, they probably felt like the patent was vulnerable. If they would have included it before, well, now all that stuff that you hear about on the internet could have been brought in, right? Also, leverage. Now they got their preliminary injunction. They have all the leverage, right? Like, they shut Tim down. They basically have him by the throat, right? So before settlement talks start, they're going to want to have the 538 patent in there so they can include that into the settlement talks. So what's going on with the 538 patent? This is the actual patent that covers the super safety. So I was incarcerated when all this stuff went down, so I don't know all the details. But I'm seeing a whole bunch of posts and a whole bunch of people saying that there's a lot of evidence that imply that the 538 patent may be fraudulent. And Rare Breed is on a suing campaign, so I have to be very careful with my words, because next thing you know, I'll wind up catching a defamation lawsuit. Because they're definitely not afraid to do that. We've already seen that stuff. So, anyways, the internet is implying, again, no judge has decided this, so using words like fraud is improper, but that the patent is less than ideal. I don't know the legally correct words to actually call, because the internet's accusing this of being fraudulent, but I can't use the word fraudulent, so I don't know the word I can use for that. But you get the idea, right? So apparently there's posts and recorded phone calls and everything that... The backstory is, so apparently Tim Hoffman invented this thing, right? The super safety. He puts it out on open source. Then a manufacturer starts manufacturing them, gets contacted and threatens to be sued by Rare Breed. So then he files a patent against it, saying that, oh, I invented this to try to stop Rare Breed from suing them. And then because he gets that patent, then he sells that patent to Rare Breed, and then Rare Breed is using that patent, or wasn't using it, they just had it in the background, but now is currently using that against Tim Hoffman. So that's the story. Again, I'm not a patent lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not ruling this stuff as fact. I'm saying that's the hearsay that's out there. And it should be considered as nothing more than hearsay. So, they probably didn't want all that hearsay to enter in when they were going for their preliminary injunction, because that could have muddied the waters. The judge could have looked at that and been like, what is going on here? And then not ordered the preliminary injunction, because the judge isn't supposed to. Like, well, all right, so if I have a product, I have product A, right? And they sell product B, a judge isn't supposed to issue a preliminary injunction if the remedy to this can be fixed financially. So if I sold all these when the customer should have been buying these, well, that can be fixed financially. There shouldn't be a preliminary injunction, right? The preliminary injunction should be issued like, me putting out this product hurts this person, like physically hurts them, or puts them out of business, or it does something that can't be fixed financially. And anyways, they got a preliminary injunction. So why did they get it? It's very possible it's because the ATF stepped in. Remember, the ATF stepped in because they were using very shaky patents and said, hey, we want you to issue this preliminary injunction for public safety and shit. So that's awful. I can't believe that happened. I really hope that the judge actually found irreparable harm and found validity to the case, because he's also not supposed to issue a preliminary injunction unless he believes on merit they're going to win. I'm not a patent expert, but I don't see it. So I'm hoping that he didn't just issue this preliminary injunction because the ATF asked him to. I'm hoping that there was something there, something I'm not seeing, something my little lizard brain can't pick up. I hope. So they might have thought that, hey, bringing the 538 into it now would take away whatever the judge seen, hopefully, other than just the government leaning on the scales of justice to tilt it in a certain way. So filing it now, again, it increases vulnerability and leverage. Now, this could backfire. This could blow up in their face. If this goes in front of the jury, unless the judge removes the evidence, and that's possible, because the judge didn't let a lot of stuff in that should have been let in my case, they could look at that, and the jury's not patent lawyers. They're not looking at the technical stuff. They're looking at this through the human perspective. And if they see all this evidence that, hey, this was publicly available, he likely did invent it, and then this guy stole his design, filed a patent on it, then sold that patent, and that patent is being used as lawfare against the original inventor, the jury might rule against this. So this could blow up in their face. This was a very risky move to make. I'll say at the end why I believe they made it. It brings in scrutiny. Now, because this is entering into the mix, now before it goes to jury trial, it's going to be scrutinized, and the judge is going to have to decide what evidence I'm going to let in and what evidence I'm not. I haven't seen any of the evidence, but from my comment section that apparently there's screenshots, recorded phone calls, and a whole bunch of stuff that if let in would make it very hard for a jury to rule in the favor of every trigger. So we'll have to see how that goes down. Another thing, let's pretend they win on jury appeal, or on jury. Appealing, that is a problem. Again, in my case, they chose not to defend that the auto key card was a machine gun to ensure that they get a win now, even though it could likely result in a loss later. So they're choosing the win over a loss later. I gotta do something real quick. Where was I? Oh yeah. So they could be choosing, we'll win now, and then possibly lose later in appeal. The damage would already be done by winning now. They would crush the market. They would make millions of dollars, and it wouldn't really matter if they lose later on an appeal. They did the same thing in my case, like I was saying. They chose to win now by not including defending the auto key card as a machine gun, because if they did that, I probably would have beat them, because the auto key card is not a machine gun. But they didn't defend it in my trial, and with appellate, you can only use what was brought up in the trial. So now that they haven't defended it, well, now I have a very strong appeal. Now that they've included the 538, Hoffman's got a very strong appeal. If these allegations are correct, allegedly, the proof that this patent is bad is overwhelming. If that is true, and if that is correct, he'll win the appeal later. All right, so what are we looking at here? The timeline says a lot. How the stuff all went down, how it all happened, and that will come into trial. I mean, the judge could not let it come into trial, but the timeline is going to be heavily leaned on in trial should it go to that point, if the judge allows it to go in. Another thing that where it could backfire is it could look like overreach. If the jury starts seeing that, oh, rare breed is a rare greed, and they're just Goliath smashing David, and they're the bad guys, and this is all overreach, regardless of facts, they could go in the favor of Tim Hoffman. So, that's a lot. So why would they take a risk like that? You're probably wondering. Because I know I was wondering, like, why include the 538? Yeah, it's the only patent that legitimately actually covers the super safety, because these ones don't. I mean, that's my opinion, but these ones definitely do not. Why include it? Why put your throat out there and go all in? Why throw it all on black? That is because they likely think that this isn't going to trial. They believe that he's going to settle because of the lack of his fundraiser. I mean, he hasn't made crap on there. I know it looks like a lot to somebody that hasn't been to trial, but like $100 grand, that is nothing. He will absolutely not win this case only having $100,000 to fight with. So I'm assuming he must have some other plan to make other kind of money, or maybe somebody's doing some pro bono work from him. I don't know, but they believe, probably looking at that fundraiser, he's not going to win. So their strategy is increase complexity, bring up the cost, and we want the 538 patent in there. So when we talk about settlement, we can force him to validate the patent. Because when he validates this patent and says, oh yeah, he is the inventor, because they obviously pay him some sort of money or something like that. He is the inventor, and you know what, that patent's legit. Now there's no obstacles for them to go after everybody that makes any sort of force reset trigger, because they got the trigger mechanisms patent now, which they don't. Partisan triggers actually has the original TAPCOM patent. So I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But we're going to pretend that the 223 patent is legitimate and it doesn't fall. So then they have that patent, and now they got the super safety patent. So they own the market, right? Or let's pretend they lose that patent. Well, now they still got the super safety patent to fall back on it. So I believe, again, not a legal expert here, and if you take legal advice from me, you're stealing, because I'm definitely not giving it away. I believe they do not think that he's going to go to trial. I believe that they think he is going to ultimately settle. And they could be right, I don't know. And that is why they want the 538 in there. So when the settlement talks start happening, this is lumped in. So now this questionable patent, again, you know, this is internet lore, I don't know the truth, has now been legitimized. So that's what's going on currently, up to speed with the Hoffman trials, the super safety, and the rear beat triggers. Bam, bam. And if you'd like to help support the channel directly, again, shop at Only Tactical Fans at shopify.com, which I do still have a couple of Cat Gen 7 tourniquets. This is the legitimate military tourniquet. Perfect for tac vests, range bags, put them in your car, good to go. Now, I still do believe that the snake staff is better for CCW or EDC tourniquets, but when you're building a vest, there's just something cool about a military tourniquet as well. Or if you don't want to do all that, the next best way to do it is click on that Amazon affiliate link, just by clicking on that link. Even if you don't buy what that link's for, just doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do, but clicking on that link first, I get a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.